Would you believe that there might be a poisonous plant living in your own backyard? Buckle up, folks, we are diving into the world of dangerous horticulture as we talk the top 10 deadliest plants on earth you need to stay away from. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have hemlock. Also known as poison hemlock, or the plant that killed Socrates, this highly poisonous plant belongs to the same family as carrots do. Originally found in Europe and North Africa, hemlock is now a cosmopolitan plant and can be found worldwide. Hemlock has long been regarded as one of the most poisonous plants in the world, and it has been used for centuries, including in ancient Greece as a means of executing prisoners, i.e. the whole Socrates thing. Hemlock is poisonous to both humans and animals because of the numerous alkaloids that are present within the entire plant, and sometimes skin reactions happen just by touching the plant's leaves. All in all, this plant is one to stay the heck away from. In our number 9 spot today, we have devil's snare. Also known as angel's trumpet or Jimson weed, there's an old saying that goes along with these plants, saying that ingesting them makes people, quote, hot as a hare, blind as a bat, dry as a bone, red as a beet, and mad as a hatter. Their words, not mine. Anyway, apparently this is actually kind of true. People will voluntarily ingest this plant because of the hallucinogenic effects, but I have to ask, at what cost? This plant can make people very aggressive and combative, and they can become a huge danger to not only themselves but others as well. Most people who ingest this plant will end up needing medical attention and possibly even sedation. The worst of it is that there have been reports of people going into comas and even passing away after having tea made from the leaves of this plant. I think it's probably just better to leave this one alone and find a safer way to pass the time. In our number 8 spot today, we have water hemlock. Water hemlock is closely related to poisonous hemlock we already talked about, which was truly not good, and to be honest, this one is not any better. Water hemlock has also been deemed the most violently toxic plant in North America, so I feel like knowing all of these things combined is just enough to concede on ever needing to be anywhere near this plant at all. Because this plant too belongs to the carrot family, it can sometimes appear a little too closely to parsnips and celery, which obviously would provide quite a dilemma. This plant is infused with psychotoxin, especially in the roots, and after consuming the plant, the potentially deadly symptoms will start to appear quite quickly. The symptoms include things like painful convulsions, abdominal cramps, and nausea, and unfortunately most people who consume water hemlock end up passing away. There are people who have survived, however, but those who do are usually left dealing with amnesia or lasting tremors. In our number 7 spot today, we have white snake root. Also known as richweed, this species of poisonous plant is endemic to the eastern and central regions of North America. This plant is herb-like. It's actually a perennial herb that is common in woodlands and brush, and although it's a relatively smaller plant, it certainly packs a punch when we talk about the poison. It's quite a beautiful plant and is actually, for some reason, commonly used for landscapes and such, but despite that, it is extremely poisonous and even deadly to both humans and animals. Most of the plant is comprised of a toxin known as trematol, which, when consumed, can cause trembles or what is known as, quote, milk sickness. The good news is that poisonings by this plant have dropped significantly in modern history, but in the 1800s it was responsible for thousands and thousands of deaths, and rumor has it, potentially even the death of Abraham Lincoln's mother. In our number 6 spot today, we have the sandbox tree. This tree has a name that makes it sound like it would be a good, nice, fun time, but that is just simply not the case. This tree belongs to the evergreen family and is usually found in the tropical regions of North and South America, which includes the Amazon rainforest. This tree can be easily recognized by the many dark, pointy spines that it has on the trunk, which is the first part of the tree that should probably be a red flag. These pointy spikes are probably the least of your concerns with this tree, however, as the sap that comes from it is corrosive and will burn your skin like it's drain cleaner. The sap has been used by fishermen to poison fish, which kind of seems backwards, and it's also been used by indigenous tribes to poison the tips of arrows. And just to add one more, less horrifying but still really dangerous thing to watch out for with these guys is their fruit. Basically, they start out small, but once they ripen, they explode with a ton of force. Like so much force that it's actually common to hear of them injuring people or livestock that were nearby. In our number 5 spot today, we have wolfsbane. Also known as devil's helmet or queen of poisons, this plant is endemic to the northern hemisphere and is often found in mountainous meadows where the soil is rich in nutrients and has good drainage. All parts of this plant are considered toxic, including the roots of it, and it is said that the symptoms of this poisoning present themselves quite quickly. Symptoms start with more gastrointestinal sort of problems. They then lead to tingling and numbness in the mouth and face, sometimes accompanied with burning sensations in the abdomen. Usually this is followed by the inability to speak, low blood pressure, and heart rhythm abnormalities, with death usually occurring within 2 to 6 hours, mostly as a result of complete paralysis of the respiratory system. There have even been some reports of death occurring just minutes after consuming this plant. All in all, you know what I'm about to say, don't ingest this plant, just stay away from it. It's for your health. In our number 4 spot today we have Nerium oleander. This is quite a common plant due to its beautiful flowers, so it might be a bit surprising to see it on this list today. This plant has earned itself the title of being one of the most poisonous commonly grown garden plants, so make sure you remember what it looks like. Ingestion of this plant affects the gastrointestinal system, the heart, and the nervous system, so it's really just hitting all the important things in one foul swoop. The gastrointestinal effects are the usual nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. The cardiac symptoms are characterized by a racing heart at first that then slows to below normal, and extremities can sometimes become cold and pale due to the poor circulation. The nervous system symptoms are really where things get a little crazy, however, as they may appear as drowsiness, tremors, seizures, and even coma that can lead to death. It's also important to note that these flowers are poisonous to both humans and animals, and since they're so common, it's best to watch out for that and maybe keep these guys out of your garden, despite how lovely they look. In our number 3 spot today we have the Australian stinging tree. Australia always knows how to provide when it comes to scary things, and this plant is certainly no exception. This plant has little stinging hairs on it that will deliver an incredibly powerful neurotoxin when touched. The sting from this plant is apparently excruciatingly painful. A woman named Marina Hurley was studying this plant and got stung, and she described her experience as, quote, the worst kind of pain you can imagine, like being burnt with hot acid and electrocuted at the same time. The allergic reaction developed over time, causing extreme itching and huge hives that eventually required steroid treatment. At that point, my doctor advised that I should have no further contact with the plant, and I didn't object. Apparently, the recommended treatment after coming in contact with one of these plants is to wash the stung area with hydrochloric acid and then use wax strips to remove any remaining stinging hairs. If a hair is left over, it could cause pain for months. In our number 2 spot today we have the rosary pea plant. This plant is native to Asia and Australia and is best known for its seeds, which are the most dangerous part of it. The seeds have been used in both jewelry as well as percussion instruments, although not without extreme caution, as it is quite dangerous to do so. It is said that the workers who pierce the seeds in order to be able to thread them can suffer poisoning or even death from something as small as a pinprick, although it's not something that's been widely documented. A toxic dose in humans is apparently only 0.1 milligrams for a 150-pound human, and symptoms include nausea, vomiting, convulsions, liver failure, and death, usually after several days. If the seeds are ingested while they are still intact, it is said that poisoning will not result because of the hard outer shell, but I am definitely not volunteering to test that theory out. These seeds are also toxic to horses, so if you've got a horse, make sure you watch out. In our number 1 spot today we have deadly nightshade. Well, I guess this one really is all in the name. This is one of the most toxic plants that can be found in the eastern hemisphere, with both the foliage and the berries being poisonous. The berries cause problems because they look so harmless and they don't taste all that bad either. Eating just 2 to 5 of these berries is certain enough to be lethal to an adult human, and if one leaf is ingested, that will also be fatal. The symptoms of the poisoning from the deadly nightshade are things like dilated pupils, sensitivity to light, blurred vision, tachycardia, loss of balance, headache, rash, a severely dry mouth and throat, slurred speech, confusion, hallucinations, delirium, and convulsions. So really just a whole bunch of stuff you definitely don't want. At one point there used to be special eye drops made from this plant which would be used by women to dilate their pupils, as this apparently was once seen as an attractive and seductive quality. I feel like even if that was still a desired trait, I probably wouldn't poison my eyeballs, cause that just sounds terrible. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye!